Hello and welcome to Thinking Outside the Box with me, Tim Box.
And me, Britt Box.
We talk about all things mental health, emotional well-being and how to navigate your mind in these strange times. Quick disclaimer, we're not doctors, so don't confuse any of our advice for medical advice. And even though we do try and approach this with a slightly more light-hearted outlook, we do take this stuff seriously. Don't think we don't. But we come at it from a slightly different angle and hence thinking outside the box. So, Britt, episode 11.
It is indeed.
Awesome stuff. Congratulations to us again. The listeners may remember from the last episode, we said after 10 episodes, we were going to upgrade our podcasting gear.
We didn't.
This has not happened.
I think as I sit here, though, I can see not only a new arcade machine, but also some new Loungefly bags. So
I think we know where the money went. Yeah, we squirreled it away nicely and then spent it on
other things,
nice things for ourselves. But I think hopefully you can hear us okay. Right, the title of this one, then we are calling this one "Wisdom from Our Past Selves."
Ooh. And not like in a multiverse kind of way, just like the lives that we've lived before, how we got here and what we learned.
Yeah, because we did the wisdom from our parents, didn't we?
Yes.
And then we became sort of acutely aware. There's lots of other things we've learned that we value along the way. And we picked them up from various experiences, I suppose, things we went through.
Yeah, different jobs, different sort of lives that we used to lead. And yeah, it's funny when I was writing the notes for this, because I've just picked out a couple of things. Because me personally, I've had a lot of jobs over the years. I've had a lot of jobs. My CV used to be so long that I would just have to cherry pick things. And I'd like to point out, it's not that I got fired everywhere I went. I don't think I've ever been fired, actually. I just got bored really, really easily and had to move on and had to do different things. And in fact, me doing my current, whatever it is that I'm doing, my sort of self-employed kind of rainbow baking, kind of doing other things. This has been going on for 10 years. This is the longest I've ever done something.
Amazing.
Normally it's several months. And what's quite funny is that a few years back, I spoke to someone I'd not spoken to in a very long time. And they said, I thought you'd have given all that up by now.
They knew you so well.
Yeah, so there we go.
But there we go. But that illustrates the point, doesn't it? We do evolve. We do grow and we become, hopefully, better versions of ourselves as we go through life. So there's certain moments when we learn this stuff. And by the way, I suppose we should say, if you've looked at the title of this podcast, Wisdom from Our Past Selves, and you're thinking, oh wow, are we going to be talking past lives? We are not going to be talking past lives. We're going to be talking about this life. I should say, actually,
different versions of this life.
Talking about things we used to do. I used to perform past life regression for people.
And I find it hilarious because I know that you've never believed in it. So really, you are a con man.
Well, okay, now that's a harsh word, I feel. I'm not going to list former profession con man. But here's the thing. So, as you may know, I'm a hypnotist, and as part of my training, I got taught how to do past life regression. And as Britt rightly points out, this is not in my actual belief system, although I'm not knocking people who do believe in it. Absolutely. I don't know. And I think that's the point of it.
I mean, I'm fairly certain I was a member of Anne Boleyn's court at one point or another, but there we go. That's
what's tipping you off about that? Is there's something, your affinity with the clothing
Tudors.
of the period? Yeah, you like the houses.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. So the reason I stopped doing it was because it was getting increasingly embarrassing, me at the start of each session saying, by the way, I should say, I don't believe in this.
But and yet people still booked you. I find it bizarre.
I did it very much as an exploration of the subconscious,
yes,
if
course.
you like. So some people would come because they believe in past lives. Some people would want to have the experience.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not talking about past lives.
No.
We're not going to become
the old versions of who we used to be.
Exactly. And things we've learned as we've gone along. So we've very much based this on former professions, as you say, haven't we? Not necessarily like experiences or things that happened to us, but things we actively did and pursued as a profession.
Yeah, and things that we learned from it. So, for example, my first ever job, because if you've listened to episode 3, I believe, which is about my story with depression and my sort of my life story, if you will, then you'll know I had to quit school at 16 and get a job and support myself because no one else was around to do it for me. I had to just live by myself and what have you. And the real hard thing is that getting a job when you're 16, you don't have a bank account, you don't have any experience, and you've not even got qualifications, because I'm not sure my GCSEs had come through at that time, was really quite hard.
And you didn't even have a Chapman Alliance Building Society account.
I had nothing. I had nothing, and I just had to just get a job that was cash in hand, that wouldn't ask too many questions, I suppose is the best way to put it. So I got my first ever job was in a double glazing call centre.
Oh, that sounds
soul destroying. Yeah, so I can only apologise if you lived in the Kent area in 2006. You may have got a phone call from me, who knows.
Was it an enthusiastic phone call?
Absolutely
or was
not.
It a
and here's the funny thing is, I hate talking on the phone. Like, Tim will know this. He will watch me look at my phone when it's ringing, wait until it has stopped ringing, and then Google the number rather than answer it, or do that thing. Also, if any of my friends are listening to this and you've ever received a text from me that just says, "Oh, hi, sorry, I missed your call." I've never missed your call. I've watched your call ring out because I hate talking on the phone that much. Like, I will intentionally. I'll take your calls, babe. But
thanks.
Yeah, I don't mind talking on the phone to you, because I can just be quiet and be like, yeah. So
and normally you're taking my call because we've lost each other in the shops.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only reason, really.
It's the only time we're away from each other.
So I did that for a brief period. And the reason I'm just carrying on is because I want to lump these first two into one, and then I'll tell you what they both taught me.
Okay.
So I wasn't at that job for very long. I was there long enough to basically get some ID, get a bank account, and then actually apply for I say a proper job, but bear with me. And then the very next one I got was working in the sales department, so essentially like another call centre, for a building directory website. So what my job was to call people like plumbers, like building people, scaffolders, all the like, and try and get them to give us money to advertise on our building website.
Okay, so sales again.
But what I will say as well is this was before, God, I'm so old. This was before like internet directories were as big as they are today. So the amount of times I would just get men on the phone telling me that they advertise in the Yellow Pages and that's all they needed to do, and would hang up on me.
Yeah.
So it was kind of that time. It was kind of, we don't need to advertise on the internet because we have the Yellow Pages.
What year was this?
2000 and I'm going to say 6, 7.
I'm just thinking, was I a plumber at that time?
I think you might have been.
We might have talked, or you might have talked to my dad.
Might have talked to your dad.
Oh my God. Wouldn't it be amazing if we just discovered a conversation we had before we met each other?
Knowing your dad, it would have been a long conversation. I don't think he doesn't trust the internet now. I don't think he trusted it then.
No.
So I worked at both of these places, and they were essentially doing the same thing. I could get both without any real experience, and just kind of roll with it, because fun fact, I've never gone for a job interview and not got the job. So where I say I've had so many jobs, I know how to talk to people when I'm in a room with them. I know how to charm people.
You're charming, babe. Of course you got the job.
I'm Princess Charming over here. But I got these jobs and I didn't want to do them. You know, it's that classic question in an interview: what motivated you to get this job? I needed money.
It wasn't. I care passionately about double glazing.
Absolutely not. You know, and the amount of times I'd leave messages for people and they'd call me back, and these men down the phone would be like, "Could I speak to a man there?" and wouldn't want to talk to me because I was a woman. So you know.
So is that what you learned from these jobs? Was your hatred of misogyny?
Yeah. Well, I've got here. So both taught me that money is not a motivator for me. So both of these jobs were, especially the second one, were very commission based.
Yeah.
And the harder you went at people, the more likely you were to get a large commission based bonus. And I learned very early on, even though I got these jobs because I needed money to support myself, money as just like here's some money, isn't a motivator for me. It doesn't make me work harder. It doesn't make me want to do things. And I used to think there was something wrong with me because of that, because you know, I'd see all these other people in the sales office, you know, smashing their targets, ringing the bell that we had in the office when
you got a bell in the office. Amazing.
We had lots of bells in that office, but
wow.
Really?
Anyway, that was what the reference was.
Anyway, I don't know if we'll censor that, I'm not sure. But there was a lot of people in there who were very sales motivated, and I underperformed on my sales targets every month. And I was just like, I am not doing well at this. No. And then I learned I'm not a pushy salesperson. I learned that I care deeply what people think, even if it's just some stranger on the other end of the phone. And I learned that I don't handle rejection very well.
Wow, I learned all of that.
I learned as soon as someone said no, like we were taught, we had like this bit of paper that we had to basically, if they said no, here's what you could say. You follow the little flow chart. You do all of that. Yeah. Whereas I would be like, I would call up, and I'm gonna role play this, and I just want you to say no, thank you to me.
Okay.
Oh, hello there. So would you be interested? Okay, fine. Yeah, no, sure, no worries. Sorry to bother you. Bye. And I would just hang up, and I would be the worst. So I learned that sales is not for me, and that is okay. It's not for anyone.
I think that's interesting, though, the thing about money not being a motivator. Because
yes.
So my dad did sales, and this is just going off on a tangent here. This isn't like one of the things I learned from the jobs I did, because I don't think I was ever really directly in sales.
No.
Although my dad was for many years.
Yes.
And the point he made to me was that if you believe that what you are selling to the person is actually going to make their lives better,
yes.
You know, if you believe in what you're selling them, then you'll probably do what needs to be done, and you'll come across as honest and sincere, and the person will at least trust that you're telling them what you believe to be the truth, even if it's, you know. And I think that's the thing that I learned from him about sales, is that don't try and sell something you don't believe in, because you'll have to perceive yourself every day as a liar.
And I think my
nobody likes that.
No, and I think my understanding of it was, if people wanted to advertise on the website, they would get in touch and say, hey, can we advertise on the website?
Brilliant. Surely they'll find us, won't
they? So
we have to tell people about it.
So eventually I was not good at that, and I left.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think
so. They were my first two. They were kind of my first foray into work, if you discount actual work experience I did at school age, and that's what I learned from that.
To be fair, though, I do think that's a valuable lesson to learn. Is one of the things that we're, you know, learning something that doesn't motivate you or isn't a driving force for you. Yeah, that's a big step to finding what is, isn't it?
Absolutely,
I think that's pretty cool.
I knew what I didn't like already.
Yeah. Okay, so shall I go then?
Absolutely.
Because we were talking about me being a plumber. We've spoken about me being a plumber previously, but most of the lessons I've learned came from being a plumber, as in most of the valuable ones that I've got down here today.
Not actually fitting showers and stuff.
I didn't know the skills. I didn't learn the skills of the plumber. No, I sort of. To be fair, that is one of the ones. I learned practical skills. I learned to use my hands, because I was not the tradesman type.
Well, I think someone just has to look at you.
So here's the thing.
If anyone has seen a picture of Tim, please back me up here. He does not look like a tradesman.
I don't have the gait of a tradesman.
He has soft hands.
Yeah. So I would go into a place and I'd say, "Oh, I'm a plumber."
Yeah.
And so many people would say, "Oh, you don't look like a plumber." And I took that as a compliment, because, you know, I don't feel like one either, if I'm honest.
What did they expect you to do? Turn up with a tap on your head?
I don't know. That's a good point, actually. But I suppose they expected me to turn up with my quality plumbing shirts on.
Yes.
That my mum would get for us every Christmas.
You just went in your Batman t-shirt instead.
Yeah. No, I did. We did actually have branded workwear.
How many people asked to see your dad?
Well, this is so this is the thing I was going to say.
Go on.
I wasn't a young man. I wasn't like, you know, a teenager. I think it was somewhere. I definitely was plumbing in my 30s.
Right.
You know, from late 20s to early 30s, I think, if I remember correctly. But I would often get like the old ladies who we do jobs for. Dad would sort of settle up with them. And then they'd come over to me and they'd put like a couple of shiny new £1 coins in my hand. There you go, love. You get yourself a drink.
Go buy yourself some sweets.
Because they just perceived me as the young apprentice, the young, you know, the young work experience kid or something.
Amazing.
You know?
Well, you do have a youthful face.
This is it. They were like, so nice of you to help your dad out like this. Aren't you a good lad? Aren't you a good lad? But
Which is interesting as well, though, because your dad. I know we've spoken about your dad a few times now, but your dad wasn't a plumber all his life. Like you say, he was sales, and then he turned to plumbing quite later in life.
Well,
really,
he originally trained as a plumber.
Yeah.
When he was a teenager, working. What would you call it? Polytechnic, I think it was. I was trying to think of the old word for a place of learning. But then he went into sales fairly early on in his 20s, because he was selling plumbing items. I mean, everyone's really tuned in to hear the history of my dad's career.
I know. But what my point was that your dad didn't start off as a plumber and kind of went to it later on in life. And you didn't start off. It wasn't like there was a family business that you went into. You did other things first.
No, this is the thing. The family business was very much started so that we could both work together. Yeah. But anyway, the point I was going to make, because I haven't actually told you anything that I've learned from this, except not learned to plumb very well. I learned how to build a bit of rapport with people.
Yeah.
Because around this time, the reason Dad thought of doing this was because he'd reached a sort of pivotal point in his sales career where it was either move abroad to take the next promotion or do something different, basically. Yeah. And he wanted to go back on the tools. And he said, you know what, I think there's a market for an honest family plumbing company.
Yeah.
And the reason he said this was because this was around the time when all those programs came on telly that were like rogue traders.
Oh, like cowboy tradesmen.
That's it, yeah. And
they'd
set up hidden cameras for people that were ripping off.
I used to love those shows.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I was thinking this is a terrible time to become a plumber. Nobody trusts us at all. But Dad was like, well, no, that's a perfect opportunity then, isn't it? Where if we are trustworthy, if we display that we are trustworthy from the word go, then people will respond to that and they will refer us on and all that sort of thing. Yeah. So it was very much built on the idea that we would be a friendly family plumbing company because, I mean, I'm the same as my dad. Someone talks to me, I'll talk to them back.
You are the complete opposite of me.
I can just...
Someone talks to me, I run away.
You run away, yeah, exactly. But this is, you got to remember as well, there was still a fair amount of social anxiety going on with me. But I knew that when if I talked, I probably could hold a conversation. And the thing that I learned was that I was walking into people's houses and they weren't necessarily saying, oh, I'm so looking forward to getting that plumbing done. You know, they were like, my water's cut out, or there's, you know, I've got a leaky tap, or, you know, I need the bathroom changed because it's falling a bit. Things like that. It wasn't necessarily things that were aspirational, that they were going to be pleased with. They were just going to like, I've got to get this done. Yeah. And so for us to go in there and rather than saying, oh, it's going to cost you, you know, and be like that, to be able to connect with them. Yeah. And the number of clients we had that we would, you know, if something went wrong for them in the future. I remember one Christmas Eve, this is my good deed for Christmas Eve. There was a lady that we used to do some work for. We put a bathroom in, and she just called me and said, I've got no hot water or something. I think there's nothing coming out of the tap. And what it was, the valve in the tank in the... I won't bore you with the plumbing details.
Lost me. You've already lost me.
The valve in the tank in the loft.
Something wasn't working,
but it was a very quick job for me. It was literally arrive, change it over in 10 minutes and go home. Right. And you know, I didn't charge her any money for that because that's the sort of...
A plumber on Christmas Eve. I know. Didn't charge any money.
I felt very much like it was a Christmas miracle. You know, that was what I was providing there. But, you know, so things like that.
Did you go dressed as Santa?
I didn't. I could have done, couldn't
I? Just with a hat, at least a hat.
I think I was probably, anyway. But so what I learned was to build rapport with people, to connect with people and to talk with people. It helped me out getting over social anxiety, and it's helped me out in the ongoing years, because what I do now, everything that I do with clients is built on being able to generate some level of rapport with them. Yeah. So it was probably one of the most valuable skills that I learned. And, you know, you might think plumbing is completely disassociated with therapy or doing any sort of remedial work, but actually the ability to gain someone's trust and connect with them and care about their issue is absolutely the most valuable transferable skill that I've learned, you know.
That's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
That's very good.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a waste of 10 years of my life.
No, but I mean, we are getting someone in to do the bathroom, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not doing it. I also learned, don't go near plumbing if you can avoid it, Tim. It's like, you know. So, so that was the main thing I learned as a plumber. Do you want another one from me?
Yeah, go for it. Yes.
Okay, go on.
Because I have quite a few on my next one, so you just crack on.
Right. So, well, let me go through the thing. I'll go through my plumbing lessons. Then, okay. Right, because there were quite a few. I've already said I developed practical skills, things like that. Yeah. There's a couple of things. I think you disagree with this one, right? So this is going to be potentially contentious here. Okay. Divisive points.
Is this going to be our first podcast argument?
Well, who knows? Who knows? I don't think we're going to care enough about it as well, if I'm honest. But I found that, so I would go into people's houses and they would be, occasionally they'd haggle on price. You know, you get people kind of trying to knock you down on price. That's okay. I get that. Yeah. You know, it's a one-to-one in transaction. That's fine. Yeah. But then, and you go and you'd see their house and you'd be like, oh yeah, they clearly haven't got much money to renovate and things like that, because there's things that are slightly...
Judgmental.
Well, I know that I do sound judgmental there. And if that's the lesson that you take from this listener, yes, people are judging you when they come into your house. No, what I mean is that you could clearly see, okay, they're getting this done because they need to. They don't have the money just to throw at this. They're having to get this done. But then we'd go into their living room on the way through to the bathroom or something like that, or to settle up with them. And we'd see their entertainment system, where the television was the size of the wall. Oh, and where they had every games console that I'd ever heard of. And they had a state-of-the-art surround sound and things like that. And it taught me that what you value, you will find the funds for. And the things you don't value, you probably won't. Yeah. And again, that probably is what I translate to my work with clients, is I feel that if they value the change they want to make for themselves, they'll find the money. Yeah. Now, I know, before you say anything, I know...
You don't know what I'm going to say.
I'm going to caveat this so that I don't get too much kickback from you here.
Okay.
Is that, yeah, there are times when we just have no money. We are literally have enough to eat and that's it, and barely that as well. But what I found was that in my experience, the people that were, you save money for certain things, the things that you value. That's what I would say. Go on then, go on.
Look, all I'm saying is that one of us had to get a job at 16 and support themselves and had zero money coming in. And one of us was living with their parents in their 30s into their 40s. And one of them isn't me.
Excuse me.
I'm just saying.
I have been harshly represented.
We have
there.
very different... we had very different upbringing. So one could say one of us was maybe... was put in a situation and had to just scrimp and scrave and get by and steal bread like Aladdin. And one of us, privileged.
Wow. Look, I do accept I have led a privileged upbringing. Can I just fact check you on that one, though? I didn't live at my parents all the way through into my 40s. I kept coming back to my parents after various things went wrong. So
all I know is that I remember times when I went down to the shop to put money on my gas and electricity with literal pennies that I had found in pockets and on the floor. And I can remember acquiring, I'm not going to say stealing because then they can't prosecute me, but acquiring...
You've totally just suggested you stole it there.
Packs of super noodles and stuff from Sainsbury's because, from a supermarket, from some kind of supermarket, because I had no money. I had nothing. I had less than nothing. And, and I wasn't spending my money on, cigarettes and alcohol or whatever, even though it would have been within my right to do so because my life was so terrible. But it wasn't as if someone came to me and said, okay, you can change your life, but you'll give me 500 quid. I would laugh because I didn't even have £5,
Yeah, I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm talking about that. Because so another example would be when I was at school, my best friend at I think it was junior school, he was going away to Disneyland for a month.
A month?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, you must be so rich. But I knew he wasn't rich. I knew that he didn't have, fancy things and stuff like that. But that was what his family valued, was their month-long holiday every year.
I think you're talking about, just the average person and not the orphan child on the poverty line.
Exactly. I think that's...
I think that's only when you say it that it makes me instantly go back to the time that I led. But what I have to remember, I suppose, is that me being an orphan on the poverty line is not common. It's not normal. Or, I know it is common and it happens far more often than people think, and it happens far more regularly than people would care to want to think about. But I know when you're saying that, you mean the average kind of family rather than someone who's left on their own.
Yeah, I guess what I'm talking about here in terms of what I learned was that if I want to find out where my values lie,
see what you spend your money on.
See where I'm spending my money. Yeah, what I'm saving for.
Is that why you spend money on me?
It is actually.
That's nice.
That's a nice moment. We should just quit there.
Yeah, what you got?
But I just want to make the final point. Yeah. So this week we had the option of spending money on some new podcasting gear or an arcade machine.
I'd like to point out I don't play the arcade machine, so this is very much.
I seldom play them. To be fair, I just like the look of them in the corner. But this is the thing. So if you want to understand what's going to make you happy, look at the things that you find yourself spending money on, and you could probably examine what the values are there. So I can tell you exactly that I've looked at the state of our recording gear and it's pretty good, and we've got good audio sound. And I say it's pretty good. It's really sort of budget stuff, but it does the job. Whereas I know that certain things bring me joy and allow me to unwind and allow me to feel like I'm not constantly working, or not constantly pushing and grinding. And this is actually something that brings me joy. So,
and I find, as a quick side note, I do realise that if you or I want something that we consider to be expensive and it's something that we're just going to completely indulge on ourselves, we both go to the other person almost for permission. But it's not like, may I please buy this? It's not that. But we both kind of go, oh, I was thinking about maybe getting this thing. And we kind of are hoping the other person, which we always do, will say, well, get it then. Treat yourself.
You messaged me from upstairs the other day with a picture of a Loungefly backpack and just said, totally tempted by this. And I know that means I'm going to buy it. So
I'm just letting you know. So anyway, carry on.
All right, carry on.
We're just talking about the stuff that we buy.
That's true. When
it's been a long lockdown, people. Yeah, it's been a long lockdown.
The things we've got.
We haven't been able to leave the house. What do you want from me? I have happiness delivered instead. Now carry on.
We are going to do one on like coping strategies, aren't we? I think.
Shopping,
yeah. Okay, anyway, right. What else have I got? I would say I've got other things that I learned. Things like, you can't give everyone happy. This is my first interaction with actual customers, and, you do your best.
I have something similar to that on my next one.
What is it? You do your best, but you're not going to make everyone happy. No. I learned that fairly quickly, and I think that was a valuable lesson to learn. But I always do try and make anyone that I'm providing services for be as happy as possible, because I think that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I also learned, because I know my dad's a completely honest guy, I also learned that honest people can be interpreted in another way. You can have people looking at you through the lens of judgment, or like you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Simply because they don't understand who you are. And to see someone as honest as the day is long, like my dad, get treated like that at times, it taught me that, okay, I don't have to judge myself on what other people think of me. My intent is probably gonna dictate where my morality is.
Yeah.
I
think you are a good man.
You do. That's pleasing. To be fair, I'll be worrying if you said anything other.
Not a perfect soldier, but a good man.
Oh, you've quoted Professor Erskine from Captain America at me there.
I have.
There's no higher compliment. There's no higher compliment. And the final thing I learned from plumbing is a really random one, not necessarily relevant to this, but I got to know my dad. Is what I got from that, and I think I should have put it in the Wisdom of My Parents one, but I remember why we both started that plumbing company. My dad started it because he wanted to give me a career. He did not because he wanted to plumb or because he thought, but my dad took barely anything, if anything at all, from that company in terms of wage. He just worked to give me a career. And apologies to Dad for then throwing that career away, because it wasn't for me.
Oh, don't worry, your parents are absolutely not listening to this.
And also, I like to think that what I learned from that then propelled me on to what I do now. But he did it for me, and I did it. I had no desire to plumb at all. It wasn't like I thought maybe I'll be good at that. I knew I wasn't going to be good at it. I knew I wasn't going to enjoy it.
Well, this is why your cousin now runs the family business.
Who is an excellent plumber,
Nick
say.
Nick is a very good plumber.
Nick's amazing. He really is.
Hi, Nick.
proper. He earned the title quality plumbing. We just came up with the title quality plumbing. Anyway, the thing, I did it because I realised I didn't know my dad very well at that time in my life. And the thing that I found most appealing about the idea of working alongside him every day was that, by the end of that, for good or bad, better or worse, I'm going to know him loads better. I'm going to be able to connect with him. And we absolutely did, and that was the thing that I took from that was I do have fond memories of plumbing, simply because it was in fun times with my dad. Not fun as in we had such a lot, but we we have memories now that we share. And we occasionally, you'll know this, when we're round seeing them, we'll have stories that we share from those times. And I like that. I don't think we had that many stories before that.
That's lovely.
Thank you. Okay, over to you then.
So the one I would like to talk about now is I used to work at a Mexican restaurant. And I just wanted an evening job. I was also, I'd like to point out at this point, working during the day at Claire's Accessories.
Wow.
I know, I was...
2 jobs, nice.
I know. Do you know what? Not even that, right? I was working at Claire's Accessories 9 till 5, let's say, 5, 6-ish. Then I was working at the restaurant 7 till midnight. Then I'd go out, out.
Yeah.
And then out. And then I'd get home at like 3 and I'd do it all again. And that would straight up kill me.
Wow.
Now, honestly,
That's
it would
amazing.
I would be dead. Like, I could not handle that. Now, if I go out for dinner and we stay for dessert, I'm knackered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I was going to say what a fierce work ethic you had, but really half of that was partying, wasn't it?
It would just end me now. Right, so basically I worked at a Mexican restaurant and I was just there as a waitress, just an ordinary waitress. And I actually really enjoyed it, because before this, jobs that I haven't mentioned because there was no point, but I used to work for admin at the council, and I would do other admin jobs, and I did a lot behind a desk. And what that taught me was I'm not good enough in an office environment. I needed to get out of the office, so I found this waitressing job. And it's really funny, actually, because for somebody who isn't very keen on people, I chose to take a customer-facing role. But I actually learned quite a lot from it. So I was there for a little while and I was a waitress, and then I was promoted to supervisor, and then I was promoted to assistant manager, all in quite a short space of time. So I went from just being a waitress to basically like running the show when the manager wasn't there.
Yeah,
and I'd like to point out the manager was barely there. So I was always running the show. And the things I learned from that are, because where I said earlier about how money is not a motivator for me.
Yeah.
What I learned was people work best when they feel valued and wanted.
Yeah.
So I treated all of my employees in my team, if you will, as my friends. Don't get me wrong, not to the point where they could walk all over me, not to the point where I wasn't in charge. I was still in charge, but I considered them my friends.
Yes.
A couple of them, even one of them was my housemate. I got him the job.
Brilliant.
One of them was someone I'd known for years. I think I also got him the job. So I would have just employed all of my friends. And what I found was that when people were working on my shift,
yes,
so much more got done. Like, and not because I was a taskmaster or anything like that. I absolutely wasn't. You know, I was very much like, oh, you need to take the phone call, go take the phone call. Oh, you want to go out for a pack, out for a pack. Like, I was very accommodating to everyone, but stuff got done on my shifts because I believe, anyway, you know, people who may have worked under me will get in touch and be like, no, actually, that's not it. But I believe it's because they felt heard, they felt valued, you know. People came to me with their problems about work and I would do my best to fix it for them. People would feel supported, you know. Someone needed time off because someone had died. I made sure that they got all the time off they needed. Like, I respected my staff and I expected the respect back, and I got it, and that's what I kind of learned.
I think that's a great lesson as well, because we tend to think, don't we? We brought up thinking that it's the slave driver, like you say, the taskmaster that gets the best out of people. You know, you see like that military model of somebody shouting at people, getting more effort for them, and we maybe that's how we've been brought up as well. Maybe parents shouted at us to get us to do things, but it's exactly the opposite is true, isn't it? When you enjoy what you're doing and when you feel like what you're doing is valued, you start to value what you're doing.
Exactly.
And you start to take pride in it.
And I felt, you know, from the belief I put in the team, and I felt their belief in me. So I then in turn started to believe in myself more. I believed I could lead because, you know, when I got that job and I was just a waitress, I say just, being a waitress is bloody hard work. Yeah. But when I was a waitress, I didn't think I could be put in charge of anything. You know, I didn't think, you know, I'd gone from working in a call centre, just working as a faceless data entry admin, you know, I'd done all of that. I didn't think that I could actually be listened to, if that makes sense. So then when I was given this supervision role, I remember panicking. I remember thinking, oh no, I can't lead. No one will listen to me. But it taught me that I can lead, that I can be a leader, that I can be someone that people listen to. Yeah. And that has been really, really important for me in my personal growth over the years, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. I see a lot of people who are struggling to take the next step because they've no experience of taking that step previously. You know, we talk about going outside the comfort zone, don't we? You know? Yes. And we don't know what we can achieve until we're asked to try and do it. You
Absolutely.
know? And I think that sometimes more people should more of the time should do that thing of saying, right, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't know if I can do that, but I'm going to be brave enough to find out.
Yes. And my next 2 points that I learned in this job actually go hand in hand. So, and you'll see what I mean. So one of the things I learned was to stand up for myself. Now, don't get me wrong, I've never been the person to just lay back and just, if I'm not happy in a situation, just take it. You know that very much about me. But I still, to this day, I don't like confrontation. I don't like arguing with people. I don't like having arguments. I just don't like doing it. But I learned how to stand up for myself, point one. Yeah. Because, point two, the customer is not always right.
Amazing.
And I, you know, we get taught to believe, if anyone listening to this has worked in hospitality, retail, anything like that, you will always hear the customer is always right. They're not. Sometimes they're just an arsehole.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just trying to scam you. Sometimes they're just trying to get what they want. And you have to make the call whether you're going to stand up for it and say no, or, like sometimes is our philosophy, just to deal with the thing to make them go away.
Yeah. You know? I get what you're saying.
And so you have to decide. Basically, what I kind of think this taught me was what battles to choose. You know, how to pick your battles, how to choose where to put your energy, whether you're gonna confront the thing or you're gonna just say you're gonna rise above the thing. Yeah, you know, and this job taught me that. You know, there are so many times that people would come in, and like the amount of people you had like trying to not pay for their food was ridiculous. And there were a couple of times.
Is that a thing?
Oh, it's massively a thing. Massively a thing. So I've witnessed someone go into their bag, take out some like dirt or whatever, and sprinkle it over the end of their plate to say, "Oh, this was dirty. Oh, but you ate it though, so kind of been that bad." And you know, and it's things like that. It's knowing where to pick your battles. Like one of the things I can really remember was one of my staff members. There was some, because all of my staff members were quite young. I was quite young. You know, what was I? 23, 24, half managing a restaurant, you know, and everyone was younger than me pretty much. And I remember one of my staff members, there were people in from their college, I think, or university, I can't remember which. And they didn't like my staff member, and they were just in there to give them shit, basically.
Yeah.
And I found him quite upset because of this upstairs, because like on the very third floor was where we kept the desserts and everything, and they had purposely like, you know, gone on to when his shift was, and knowing that he has to talk to them and be nice to them and all this and that, and it was just
bullying,
me
basically
bullying. And I made the call.
Yeah,
I remember this, and I said, before they'd ordered, I was like, I'd like you to leave the restaurant, please. And they tried to start on me saying they had a right to be there, and I basically was like, yeah, and as the assistant manager, I have the right to ask you to leave.
Yeah.
And I did, and my staff member felt better for it, and it was just it was one of those things where I could have just taken the table myself. I could have, but I chose to stand up for what I believed in. And I think that was one of the things that the job taught me. And then the last thing that I'm going to say about this job, what it taught me, was how to walk away when you're not being valued. So as much as I believe people work well when they're feeling valued and wanted, that was the situation I tried to cultivate for my staff members. But then when I wasn't receiving the same respect from the people higher up than me, because basically, if we remember, I was a waitress, then a supervisor, then assistant manager. And I was assistant manager for quite a long time. And as I say, the manager was barely in. And then it was only like months into it, I realised, like my pay had never gone up from my waitress pay. So I had all this responsibility, all of this stuff that was going on, but wasn't getting paid for it, and wasn't getting the value for it, like And then when I finally brought this up and said I'm worth more than what I'm currently being paid, the person who owned it basically said, oh well, I'll find another manager and you can just go back to being a waitress then. And I was like, God damn it, I've turned this place around, And I felt very sort of, I was like, oh, okay. They don't care about all the work I've put in. And I had to walk. I walked away, and I walked away from my team and the people that I'd really got to know and got to love over that time, because I wasn't getting the same value from the people higher up that I was giving to people.
I think this is important as well, people valuing themselves. I mean, that's a lesson that hopefully we all learn at some point, that we all realise, is that nobody's going to value us if we don't value ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I think, I see this all the time. It comes back to what I was talking about, where we sort of invest time and money in what we value. And do we invest it in ourselves then? Because there's this thing, isn't there? We make decisions for various reasons. But a lot of people are making decisions in their life, and we're all guilty of it at times, through fear of the alternative to what we decide to do. So you could easily have stayed there, unhappy with how you were being treated, through fear of then having no job and being left out there in the cold on your own. And I think it's, whatever decision we're making, we have to, if we're governed by fear, we're probably making the wrong decision.
Completely.
It's one of those things that I sort of live by myself.
That's something I still struggle with. You tell me when I've come to you with decisions about things, and you've said, "Are you doing it because you're scared?" And I'm like, "Yes." So it's not like it's not.
The number of times we choose a certain path because we fear what would happen if we took the other one. And this could be all sorts of things. What will people think? What will they say? What will happen if I do this? And as a result, we stay in this sort of comfortable chaos. The familiarity that we don't like, but at least we know it, and we don't have to be challenged by the unknown. And
people get stuck in relationships like that. People get stuck in all kinds of situations because they're like, well, I'm not happy, but I don't know what the alternative is.
And it's like the old story of how to boil a frog. If you put a frog in boiling water, it will instantly jump out. if you put it in lukewarm water and then slowly raise the temperature to boiling point, it will literally stay there until it dies. And it's so many times we find ourselves in a situation that if we were outside of it, we wouldn't be jumping in that water. All that's happened is we've felt kind of imprisoned by our little fears and our concerns and our worries about the unknown, and we just end up, you know, in an existence that is the equivalent of just sitting in boiling water. And
then the time passes and you don't realise just how long you've been in it as well. I think that's why, I mean, me personally, as soon as a situation or something doesn't feel right to me, I'm out. You know, I value myself now more than that, and I wonder if that's something that I learned from that job.
I think it sounds like it probably is. Okay, shall I go with my next one then?
Yes.
Right, okay, so I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but I used to be in a band.
Yeah, once or twice, maybe?
Maybe once or twice, maybe. Yeah, I didn't know if I mentioned it or not. But yeah, so many years I performed music in a band, and I think there were quite a few things I learnt from doing that.
Playing guitar?
Yeah, badly. Yeah, absolutely. Singing, badly. All of those.
No, I've heard your stuff. You're not bad.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say.
I mean, you're not classically trained like my good self, but you're not bad.
Yeah, we wouldn't call it singing then, would we?
Talk singing.
Exactly, yeah. But anyway, apart from the practical musical skills that I picked up, limited musical skills that I picked up, there were just some things about the whole mechanics of being in a band that some helped, some didn't. But the things I felt I learned. The first one was, so when I was plumbing, by the way, I used to think I was a lazy person. Okay,
right.
And to be fair, I think a lot of people around me thought I was a lazy person as well. My dad
did a bit.
And then I'd stop.
Have a cup of tea, do a bit.
That's it.
Yeah.
I used to say to my dad, I don't work as quick as you. I can't get the things done as quick as you. And he said, you work just as quick as me, but you'll do something, then you'll stop, have a look around, have a think about it, maybe make a cup of tea.
I think it's exactly what you do now. You'll come into my office and you'll be like, what are you doing? I'll be like, go back to your office, go do some bits.
I do not race from task to task. That's fair to say. But I used to think I'm just a lazy person. And I hear people all the time saying, oh, I'm lazy though, I'm lazy. And I don't actually think lazy is a thing. And being in a band taught me this.
Yeah.
Because when I care about something, when I have a passion for it, I have infinite energy. And I'm an absolute workaholic at the things that I love and the things that I want to build and the things that I'm creating. It's just that plumbing wasn't my thing.
No, well, we put our energy into the things we want to do, didn't we?
Well, exactly. It seems to be a common theme with this one, doesn't it? But to realise that actually, you know, I would lose myself for, you know, 20 hours at a time writing and recording a song or prepping something for for the performance we were going to do.
Yeah.
And I realised, well, actually, I actually do have that energy and that drive. People that say, I think I'm lazy, just haven't found the thing that fires them up yet.
Yeah.
Hasn't found their passion. You know?
Well, I used to, you know, I know it's slightly different, but I used to think that I didn't like exercise. Turns out I love exercise, but on my terms. You know, like I love doing aerial and I love lifting weights, but you will never see me running. Like if I'm running, something is desperately wrong. Yeah. Like follow me because I'm running away from something. You know, it's that kind of...
We've got friends that are PTs and they have to deal with this all the time. People not enjoying the exercises that they're given. So they find them different exercises.
Exactly.
Find them things they can enjoy doing. And I think that with so many things, you know, it's like you saying you discovered money isn't a motivator.
Yes.
You know, and I think people assume the things that are going to make them money should motivate them.
Don't get me wrong, if someone offered me like £1 million to do something really menial, like that would be a motivator for me. but you know, £3.75 an hour or whatever it was with some commission, it's not the one.
Well, maybe what we're saying then is it's not the money, it's the change of life that would be the motivator there, because that's when it's a life-changing amount of money. You know? It's like those people when they go to do the lottery and they don't do the lottery until it's a rollover. As if they're like 10 million, I'll not bother.
15 million?
Now we're talking. That's worth £1 of anyone's money.
I used to do the lottery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I stopped. And I remember for a little while having proper anxiety that my 6 numbers would come up.
You had regular numbers.
Yeah.
That's don't do it. Don't do it because you have to keep doing it then, just in case those numbers come
every
up.
Every time I never check the lottery numbers now because I know there'll be that one time. It'll be my numbers, and I haven't done it in years, and I'll feel like there should be someone I could complain to.
You should be able to show them an old ticket.
Yeah, dear Mr. Camelot.
Okay, so yeah, that was the thing. One of the things I learned. The other thing I learned. This is a really random one. I've got to be honest, right? Our band was okay. Yeah, we the general consensus amongst the bands that we did gigs with on the scene, as it were, the scene it was called, I believe. we were very good live. We represented what we had on record pretty well, and we had quite an exciting show.
Probably weren't going to get much further.
But yeah, that was the general consensus. Yeah, what a shame they will never be famous. But the point being that we would see other bands getting you used to see your bands touring with other bands.
Yeah,
and we were always after that big tour support with a known band.
Like the McFly Busted era.
Exactly, just to bring it back into something that you
have
a frame of reference on. And we never got them, and I always wondered why, when we were probably positioned to get them. And then it's only later on I realised that the people that did get them were the people that were hanging out with those bands. That they would go to their gigs, they would be, in the bars with them chatting, and they would get to know them as friends. And I guess what I learned was the value of networking.
It's not what you know.
Exactly.
It's who you know.
And I'm not saying that as, we were hard done by, we should have been given more. What I mean is that it isn't just you produce what you do. You produce the product, or you create the thing.
Yeah.
It's about how you integrate yourself into the mechanisms of the people that are making those decisions.
Yes, to make sure that you're the person in front of them.
Yeah, and it's like when you talk about running a business, your best word of mouth is your best marketing.
Yeah.
People that...
Well, this is why the people at the building directory website didn't want to buy adverts, because
precisely
they all got everything from Yellow Pages and word of mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we like the human connection, don't we? And I think
some of us do.
I didn't understand that. I didn't have any concept of that. And I say I learnt it when I was doing performing music. I probably actually learnt it when I started to do what I do now, and I started networking.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to network because I could see that was the gap in what we did when we were performing music, but it wasn't until then that I realised, oh my God, this is
it's so important.
Yeah, it's the whole story.
People will much rather sort of refer to somebody than just a random business.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, that whole thing about if you do something that's worth doing, then tell people about it. But they don't just want you ringing them up and telling them about it.
No.
They want to talk to you. They want to get to know you, and then they might say, "So tell me about what you do."
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a much more valuable conversation if they've instigated it.
Oh,
and I
just think if you'd have learned that networking, if you'd learned it in time,
I would have been so famous. We'd have been the this is the difference between us and someone like Kings of Leon, REM, something like that. That's the only difference.
Yeah,
though, I think. But,
what else did you learn?
Clearly, I had more to learn. The final thing I learned was that what ultimately frustrated me about the music business was we were constantly waiting for somebody to hand us the ticket, the golden ticket, the approval thing.
No one's getting signed these days. So.
And so we both have that story, don't we, about music managers and labels saying, "Oh, well, no one's really signing anyone these days."
It's like, what about them? What about them? What about them?
And this is the thing. I remember I had no ambition music beyond getting signed. That's actually the start of the story. It's not the end of it, but that was, we're going to get signed one day. We're going to get signed. And it was like, what's going to happen then, Tim? What are you going to do with that,
It's when you hit that point that people then start banding around the terms like overnight success.
And after all the years you've put into it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've had that. Well, from your glamorous music career to my not so glamorous. So one of my last jobs that I had before becoming self-employed was I actually worked at Build-A-Bear.
Wow.
I know. And do you know what?
Build-A-Bear.
I love soft toys. So why wouldn't I get a job at Build-A-Bear?
I can think of a few hundred reasons.
I actually got the job because I bought so many of the bears, and then I just found out that they were hiring. And fun fact, so when I was working at the, this is kind of how I got the job as well. When I was working at the Mexican restaurant, a guy that I worked with there, his partner at the time managed Build-A-Bear.
Oh, wow.
So it was all very...
Small world.
It was all very interconnected. So I got a job at Build-A-Bear. And it's funny because for those of you who sort of know me or know of me on the internet, you might know I'm not overly fond of children. So why on earth would I get a job in a place? And I used to say that my job was amazing, except for the customers.
Is it because you thought all the customers were like adults like yourself buying their soft toys?
Do you know what? And during the week they were, and it was lovely. So what I learned at Build-A-Bear, other than how to stuff and sew up a bear in record time, was that having fun when you work is something that is so important to me.
Yeah.
We discovered that money is not a motivator to me, but feeling valued is. Having fun is definitely a motivator. And at Build-A-Bear, we had a ton of fun. Like I have such good memories from working at that place. I have a lot of laughs. I have a lot of just good times. I had a really great team that I worked with, and I just really enjoyed it, and I had fun. I got to play around every day, and I got to, and I took a lot of the kids' parties, which I know for someone like me you'd be confused as to why, but I actually really enjoyed it because I could just play. I could just play, and the kids either played with me or they didn't. I didn't care. Like it was join in or sit over there. Like I'm not. Yeah. But I really, really liked it. And the other thing I learned as well is people will love you for who you are. So I used to feel like in all of my other jobs, I used to feel like I had to almost not hide who I was, but I certainly had to tone down the weird when I was working at the council offices. I couldn't be me. I couldn't be just unapologetically myself.
I imagine the version of you that would work at the council offices was a different version of you than would work at Build-A-Bear.
Well, exactly, and this is what I mean by wisdom from our past selves, because past Britt in the office is not past Britt who worked at Build-A-Bear, you know, and I learned that the people around me, they loved me for the weird, nerdy, ridiculous human being that I am, rather than, the sanitized, polite, answering the phone office person, and I think that's a really, really great lesson that I learned from that I didn't have to water myself down. All my life I've been told by people that I'm too much, that I'm too loud, or I talk too much, or I'm too weird, or I'm too this, I'm too that, and I'm like, no, I just don't think you can handle it. It's not a fault on me. Do you know what I mean? If someone,
we don't, not everyone is going to like us. Not everyone's going to accept us for who we are. But a lot of people don't get to find that out because they do sanitize themselves. They censor their thoughts. They censor their actions. And I don't mean everyone should go around saying everything they think to the point of offending people.
No, that's what TikTok is for.
But we shouldn't be censoring ourselves to the point where we just fit in with the crowd that we've been put with.
Yes, absolutely.
We should find the crowd that appreciate us. And it's like, that's probably why you enjoy being at Build-A-Bear more than the council offices, because you didn't have to put any energy into being a version of yourself that wasn't natural.
No, I didn't have to hide. I didn't have to hide anything. I just had to mind my language when the kids were in the shop. I could do that. That was all right.
Just about.
And then the last thing I learned was that by the time I worked at Build-A-Bear, I was a little bit older from when I worked 2 jobs and was going on nights out. And I realised very quickly that I couldn't handle my drink and late nights as well as I could. So I used to be able to just stroll straight back into my previous job after being out till 3 a.m. And my time at Build-A-Bear told me otherwise.
Well, the kids don't want a hungover shop assistant.
Do you know what? Once I remember going into work and my manager at the time, who's still a good friend of mine, Susie, but I'm not sure if she'd be listening to this, but Susie took one look at me. She was like, "Are you still drunk?" And I said to her, "I honestly don't know." And she went, "Go home."
I feel that should be a minimum requirement. You should be able to confirm categorically you're not drunk.
Yeah, and I went home and I slept it off. But I didn't make a habit of that. But it was just, I remember that one time, and I remember thinking, I'm older now than I was when I worked 2 jobs and was out.
Moment where
do you know what's even worse? Working at Build-A-Bear was like, what, 11, 12 years ago now? Oh no, it probably wasn't that long ago. I actually don't know how long ago it was. 2009, 2010, I think. So actually, yeah, maybe 10 years ago. But anyway, I can handle late nights even less than that now. So that was just a precursor. Now I sniff a glass of wine and I get heartburn. That's where we are. So that's what I learned. I learned that having fun when you work is important, and you will find people who love you for who you are, and to gravitate towards those people, and to gravitate away from the people who don't see you for your worth.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to be a version of you that you're not comfortable with, because there's 7.5 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
And if you be you,
someone's going to love you.
You will find the people who think you're awesome. Exactly. And I hope we are proof of that.
Exactly.
We're together. You're looking at me as if, how about one more from you, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have one very brief thing to say when you are done.
Okay. I'm looking at my list here, and I'm realising I don't think I actually made the point I wanted to make about being in the music industry and waiting for the ticket from other people, because what I learned from being there was that I want to do something where I'm not dependent on somebody else opening the door for me.
Yes, you want to open your own damn door.
Yeah, I wanted to have autonomy over what I do, and I think that's where I developed the idea of I don't know, creating something that wasn't just, if you think I'm good enough, then that will mean I can make a career out of this. Yeah. And I think that kind of has stayed with me. I think that's a cumulative effect of a lot of things that I've done. When I was very young, like when I was 16, I had my first job was checking lorries in on the motorway.
Which I find bizarre that was a job.
Well, back in the day when they were building the M20,
oh,
yeah, I mean, and anyone that's in the southeast of England will probably know the M20. It seems like it's been there forever, but I can assure you it wasn't. And I just got a summer job just checking, literally all I did, the lorries would pull up, I would open the back of the lorry, they'd tip all of the various hardcore or whatever it was they had onto the floor, I'd close the back of the lorry, I'd get them to sign the ticket. That was it. And I had
what happened to the hardcore that was on the floor? Was it just left there?
Then the people that were laying the motorway would use it to lay the motorway. It wasn't just
like I was leaving it there and walking away. Okay,
dump your rubbish here and I'll validate.
That's fine.
No, that was and I did that about 30 times a day. But that's an 8-hour day, and it's just me standing around, punctuated with a lorry arriving now and again. Yeah, that was all I did.
That sounds thrilling.
It was absolutely mind-numbing, and it was the thing that made me think, I don't think I'm cut out for just being employed, because it didn't resonate with me. And also, it was the thing that I probably took away from that. I wanted to buy a drum machine and a 4-track recorder. This was predating, right at the very start of my music.
I'm not even sure I know what they are.
Well, a drum machine is a machine that makes drum sounds.
Oh, okay,
I mean,
fine.
The clue's in the name.
No, but I meant the 4-track.
The 4-track is just a way of recording like songs and stuff, really. And I wanted to start recording my own songs. So so it was very early days of my music. I didn't have a band or anything.
You have not done this in chronological order.
I've done it in reverse chronological order, actually. Yes. Yeah. I've sort of taken us back to the origin. It's like that episode of ER. Probably don't know it.
No, not so.
Anyway, the thing that I realised was that if I want something, rather than, I've got a certain amount of money coming in and I'll just save, I'll deprive myself of something to be able to buy this thing I want. It was like, right, I'll get a job, I'll earn the money, and I'll spend it on that. And I remember when my parents, when I was younger, if we wanted something, they wanted to get us a special Christmas present or on a holiday, we'd kind of be saving. We'd go without this or that just to be able to get this thing that we wanted. And I don't think I ever liked that idea. And this is why, and this is coming back to the point about not relying on others for my path.
Yes.
I'm going to work out a way of making more money if I want something more. Yeah. And that tends to have always been my attitude. The self-employed model of I want to be in charge of my path. So I didn't want to be employed by somebody, simply working for a raise or a promotion. I didn't want to have other people's approval deciding whether I was accepted onto this job or into this role or not.
You're also not very good at other people telling you what to do either.
I don't think I am, if I'm honest.
No.
But I think it was motivated by wanting to have autonomy over my journey and my path. And
you being in charge of you and your own happiness.
Exactly. All of that stuff has just added up over the years. And apart from that motorway job, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I think that was the one time I've been employed with a pay slip, rather than I'm self-employed or I'm earning, creating things like that. And I think that really you learned
that early on. It
impacted upon me. I think.
That's really, really good. I wish I'd learned that early on because, as I say, I was in and out of jobs, and the longest I've actually gone is just doing my own stuff. Doing one. And that kind of leads me really nicely to the last point I want to make. So after I worked at Build-A-Bear, I was, I feel I was getting old. It's still 10 years ago. But I wanted my weekends back and I wanted my evenings back, because when it was like Christmas and when it was stuff like that, we'd work until really late. And I just wanted a bit more of a solid 9 to 5, Monday to Friday kind of gig, even though I knew I didn't work well in an office environment, but I kind of needed the break. Like by this point, I'd spent years on my feet working in hospitality, working in retail, and I needed something different. That's the thing with me. That's what I've noticed. It's not so much that I get bored easily. It's not boredom. It's that I crave something new. And I think, it's one of the reasons why this past year of lockdown 2020 into 2021 has been really hard for me, because it's just been the monotony of the same thing every day, because all of the stuff that we enjoy doing is off the table, but that's a different story. But the last job I ever had before embarking on my self-employed journey all those years ago was I worked for admin as an admin assistant in like a service department for a luxury watch retailer.
Okay.
So my job was basically people who'd bought watches from us, if they'd stopped working in the warranty time, they would get in contact with me and they'd say, oh, the watch has stopped working, and I would schedule the repair.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the most interesting thing, but things I learned from that, it was around this time that, I mean, my mental health had gone up and down all throughout this time, all from the double glazing call centre. But I know that for the entirety of it, I kept it quiet. I kept it under wraps. I didn't tell anyone. People who knew me at the time would have had no idea what I was going through, because I didn't tell anyone, and I was too scared to tell anyone that I worked with or worked for, in case they looked at me differently. Because I'll be honest, and people who are my age and older may realise this, but 10, 11 years ago, mental health was seen differently.
It was.
It wasn't, we talk about, let's end the stigma, let's talk about it. We can talk about it so much more now than we have ever been able to.
Yeah, there wasn't the awareness of it.
There really wasn't. Yeah. But when I was working for this watch company, I had reached a point, and I don't even know what triggered it. I'm not sure, but I was not okay. Like I was really not okay, and to the point where I couldn't hide it anymore. And my supervisor, a lovely guy that I worked under, basically, he was the manager of the service department. I was like, I think he'll be okay with it. I think he'll understand. Yeah. And I kind of asked to speak to him, and I just told him everything. And I was really worried that like I was going to lose my job, or that I was going to, I don't know. I was just really scared, but he was so cool about it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It was very much of the understanding that I told him and nobody else.
Yeah.
It was it was kind of an unspoken understanding that I didn't make my struggles public.
Right.
Because this was around the time when I had tried to take my own life, so I needed to tell, like, I wasn't in for a few days because I was doing that, and I needed to talk to someone. And even though it wasn't as accepted to just kind of to be known, he was really, really good about it. And that kind of taught me that having someone listen to your mental health concerns is so important, because I felt like a weight had been lifted. I felt for like, for weeks that there was just this dark cloud, this heavy rock that was on me, because I couldn't concentrate at my desk, and once I'd kind of told my boss, look, this is what's going on, I found that my productivity went up. I found that my work was better. I found that I was a lot calmer. I felt that, it was just, because I remember once, it was before I told him, and I came in and my desk was sort of just next to his pretty much. And I came in one day and I turned my computer on and I took my coat off and I burst into tears at my desk. I just burst into tears. And he kind of looked at me and he went, come on, break room, let's go. And then, and he was like, right, what's going on? He was so kind. And I will always remember him for that. And I will always be thankful to him for that. So having someone listen to your mental health concerns, even in a work environment or just in your personal life, is so important. Having someone that you can talk to. So that I found was
that's a great place
to finish. That was, and then just the very last thing that I learned there, because that was the last job I had before I quit and became self-employed. And that job taught me really that having the courage to follow your dreams and leave the safe option is always available to you. I remember I walked out of that office. When we spoke about grief in last week's podcast, and I spoke about how walking away from situations, even though they weren't bad for you, can still be very emotional. I remember as I left with all my stuff and I left that job, I cried, because even though I knew I was taking the leap into something that was might potentially be really, really good for me, and turns out 12 years down the line it has been, it was still scary, and it was still and it took a lot of courage, and the people there were all very supportive, and they all ordered cakes from me at the start, and it was great. So whilst the actual job, I learned nothing about watches. I couldn't tell you anything about watches, but the things that on a human level that I learned from that job were very important to me and will stay with me for the rest of my life.
I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely awesome. I think it's really worth making the point as well that we're not always moving on because we're dissatisfied.
Yes.
We're moving on because, there might be more for us. There might be more that we want to do or more that we want to achieve. And it's, again, not allowing fear to restrict us. I think that's awesome. I think that's a bit of a theme, actually, from what we talked about in here, which wasn't intentional.
No.
But I like that as a message, as takeaway.
And having the courage just to know that everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Nice. One day we'll do a podcast and we won't have film quotes in it.
No, probably not.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Thanks so much for that, Britt. I've loved hearing all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for listening, guys. As always, we really, really appreciate your love and support on the podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, please come let us know. You can find us on Instagram. I'm Britt Marie Box and Tim is at Timbox Mind Coach. Come have a chat with us. Tell us what you think. Share the podcast to people you think might get something positive from it. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
And keep thinking outside the box.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.